Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming. No bells, no frills, no whistles, just a man, a camera, and his game. Today, I'm going to do my final video on the Manhattan Project 2 Minutes to Midnight by Minion Games. Now, I've played this game now about 4 or 5 times total. And just going to give some general thoughts on the game. I'm not going to go over rules. I'm not going to go over a lot of details in that sense. If you're interested in that, you can check out my other videos. I have ones that show sample turns, sample scoring, and a final scoring one as well too. So let's just talk about the game and some different aspects of it, components, etc. So the game itself, just as a brief overview for those of you who don't know about it, is basically set 20 years after the Manhattan Project, and basically you're looking at arms race here with ICBMs and SLBMs and bombers and competing in third world countries. Think the Russians putting missiles into Cuba kind of thing. And basically you're scoring points throughout the game for all these weapons systems that you are building and deploying. So again, not getting into the rules, I'm going to go over some different categories. Those of you who have seen my written reviews on Board Game Geek, I've done about 75 of those all together. No, I have like a little pattern there, so I'm just going to kind of follow that same setup for a discussion of different aspects of the game. So first of all, playing time. This does take a bit of time. Again, I've been playing this mostly multiplayer solitaire, but even so, it does take a decent amount of time to get through the 30 turn range. Now, there are longer turn games that you can play that are epic and stuff. I'm not sure if I would do that because it does take quite a while to do this. Not outrageous, but I would say if you're going to play with a maximum of 5 players, you should really be ready for a decent evening game. Let's put it that way. The pieces and the cards. The pieces are very nice. You can see here the workers, the tiles, the light bulbs that are used, all those things are very nice. They're nice and sturdy. They're nice and thick. If you can get a shot at that, you can see how thick that is. Very easy to pick up, manipulate, move around. The cards are also very nice too. Easy to read them. The cards basically deal with the subs and their decoys. That's what you have the cards for. There are a handful of cards that are also countries as well too. And again, easy to read, well organized, clear on the information that go with them. So all those things, very, very nice here. Very well done. It's high quality components. Maps. Now usually in war games we have one big map and player aid cards that go with it. These kind of games we have some community maps. As you can see here, we have worker assignment, building market, we have a technology and scoring one, and then you also have individual country maps as well too, with mainland where you build things, airspace, keep track of your workers, and of course the third world country that's on your doorstep as well. So a lot of different things going on here, but they're well organized, they look good. Again, nice quality thing. The rules. Any game, of course, the most important thing is the rules. And for this particular game, the rules are very well written. They're very clear. I had no questions right off the bat after I read through it. Typically, with other games, I might have a few things that I'm like, I got to go check that out, or let me look at Board Game Geek at the thread. Nope, no need to do that here. These rules were well organized, and I only had one problem down the road. Basically, my problem in one of my games was, oh man, I'm running out of nukes. So what do I do if I run out of nukes? And basically I found the answer very quickly. But for the rule book, I will say that, let me just show you a sample here with like proliferation on this page here. It again is nicely organized. You've got italics, you've got bold print and important things, and to me, one of the most important things is you've got a nice example. You've got words here, but you also have a diagram with the arrows showing you what moves where and how things are done. So the rule book is very, very well written and very well done. Now, typically in games when I evaluate them, I give a list of things that I like about the game and things that can be annoying. Now, annoying could mean either to me or just something that could be annoying to people in general, so I just kind of give a heads up on things. So, things I like about the game here. One of the things I like is the theme. I know it's a darker theme, but I've always been fascinated by deterrence and nuclear strategy and such. One of my favorite movies is Doctor Strangelove, so it tells you that I have no trouble with the quote-unquote dark comedy aspect of this. So the theme I find very interesting. I also like the layered strategy. There is a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of ways you can approach the game. If somebody's building nuclear reactors like crazy, you can counterbalance that. You can't, actually, quite honestly, you really can't afford to just focus on reactors because somebody's going to start clobbering you over the head with something else. So there's a lot happening here in terms of what do I build? Where do I put my people? How soon do I convert people into generals and spies and things like that? So I really like the layers of the strategy. Another thing is there's always something to do. Even if somebody starts to take up some of the spaces on the board, especially here on the worker assignment board, there's always still something to do. So you never feel like you're completely out of the picture or you're completely marginalized. And of course, you can always pull the trigger on an early retrieval turn if you need to. Another thing is turns are pretty quick, especially the placement turns. Retrieval can take a little bit because the sequence is important, but overall the turns move pretty fast, so I like that. I also like the country cards. They add some flavor. My last game here, Mr. Orange, I think partly won because he really embraced the North Korea card, which I'll show you here, says, basically demand money, you can get extra victory points if people don't give you the money for detonating sites. And Mr. Orange here, if you look at his country card, he detonated 3 sites altogether. And of course, he demanded the money a couple of times when Mr. Green or Miss Blue did not have the money, so that kind of gave him those extra victory points, which became essential. So I like that. And then the variable scoring turns. I like the fact that you don't know who is going to be scored first until the game is actually set up. So each game's a little different. First time, might be ICBMs. Next time you play, it might be your subs. So that's very cool. I enjoy that. Things that can be annoying. The theme. Now, I'm saying the theme because there are folks who may not like the idea of the theme because it is a darker theme. So just kind of giving a heads up there. There is a little bit of a screw your neighbor on this if you really want to kind of get peevish if you're not winning and you're not doing well. You could just start to deny people things. I don't recommend that because since, as I said in my number 2 up there, there's a layered strategy going on here. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different things happening. It's not really recommended to do that, but I'm just kind of giving that as a heads up because you could do that if you wanted to. The other thing, to me anyway, just my personal experience, is that I feel like the Third World scoring card seems a little bit underpowered. You don't get to seem to get enough bang for your buck as you do with the bombers and the subs and the ICBMs. It's just not... And the only word I can think of is powerful. It's just not as powerful as some of the other scoring cards are. So, in my opinion, Third World seems a bit underpowered in this game in terms of scoring and importance. Now, to kind of sum things up here, I'll give you my overall evaluation, which I do on a scale from 1 to 9. And I've got my handy dice here to help me out. Whoops. Whoa, earthquake. Let me move my North Korea out of the way there. And my scale goes from 9, which is Wargamer Heaven, because mostly I play war games. About 99% of my collection is that. All the way down to 1, which is basically I'd rather staple my tongue to the wall for a month because, yeah, that's just would be a much more pleasant experience. So my evaluation here, different categories, maps. The maps are very well organized. They're well labeled. There's lots of room on the community maps, especially the worker assignment one where there's a lot of activity going on. The player maps, if you look here from the end of my last game, they can get a little crowded. But even so, with all of that, and even with the issue here, if you can look here on the side, Mr. Orange's country map is warping a little bit. Even with all those things thrown in and considered, I still would use my little handy-dandy tank here. I still would give this an 8 for the maps. I think they're nicely done. The pieces, they're nice, they're thick, they're clear, easy to read at a glance, easy to understand. Those, I would definitely give, move my little tank up here, to a 9. They're really well done. Cards also, a 9 as well too. Just nicely done, easy to read. Not too flashy, not too complicated, that kind of thing. Now, deployment of forces. Now, some of you might call that setup, but for my case, I'm a wargamer. I call it deployment of forces. This is pretty quick. The only thing that takes a few minutes is the tiles here in the building market. You shuffle them face down to start each game. Same thing with picking country cards. That can take a few minutes. Also, for randomizing the 4 scoring tiles, excuse me, I use a D4 to just roll and use, I have a yellow die, a brown die, etc. and just determine that, as far as the order goes and stuff. So deployment of forces is pretty quick. I would give deployment of forces an 8 because this game is pretty easy to set up. Solo play. Now, I do a lot of online gaming solo. My major gaming partner is my wife, and she really only plays certain games in my collection, like Twilight Struggle or History of the World, those kind of things. This game is probably one we're going to play together also, because to me this is kind of like a combination of an old game, Ultimatum, kind of meets Twilight Struggle, in my opinion. And she has played both of those and enjoyed those. So my point here being that for solo play, I think this works out pretty well because there are different things to do. You can tailor a strategy for each country if you want ahead of time. The country cards also help with this too, to come up with that. For the subs, what I usually do is I just shuffle them all face down, and then I just randomly deploy them to give some variety. I know that can kind of slight things a little bit, but part of playing solo, though, is to kind of simulate the circumstances that can arise where you can take advantage of someone else's mistakes. Because let's face it, if you're going to win a game, that's the whole essence of winning any competition, whether it be playing a game like this or playing football or playing chess. Victory usually comes from taking advantage of someone else's mistakes, something that they didn't do, forgot to do, shouldn't have done, that kind of thing. So I do that with the subs. So solo play, it's a little trickier than some other games, but even so, solo play, I would give it a 7 because I found it very easy to play by myself. Footprint. Footprint basically describes how much space is taken up by a game. Now you can see my table here is extremely long. It's a nice big table, but you can see from the 4 cards here that it really, 5 cards actually, and there was another one with Miss Blue's Country. It really does take up a lot of space. So the footprint on this is pretty big. It's not outrageous, but it is sizable, so you will need a sizable table. Even with 3 players, you're going to need some space. So for that, I give the footprint a 6 because it does need some room, so to speak. So my final evaluation here. In the end, there are a lot of things to like about this game. I like the theme. Again, I like Cold War history. I like deterrence theory. All those things are of big interest to me. I like the tension because this is very tense. As you go through and see, okay, shoot, somebody went ahead and they're using all the spaces for the nukes. So what am I going to do in the meantime? Should I just put one worker down? Should I pull the trigger sooner on retrieving my workers? A lot of tension. There's a lot of variety here, too, between the order of the scoring and also, the sweeps. When you do sweeps in the coastal waters, you have to do that randomly. What if you pull 2 decoys, that kind of thing. Strategy. There's a lot of strategy here, too, especially in the order of retrieval, and I can't stress that enough. When you play this game, you really have to pay attention. When you start to retrieve all your people off the different spaces where you've put them, you really got to pay attention because that order of retrieval can be critical to scoring those points that you need. And again, you really have to take a look and see, how are you going to do this? You're going to build a bunch of spies. You can rely on your spies to grab technology for you or activate factories. Or are you going to basically, build a bunch of stuff and use your generals to deploy everything as quickly as you can? There's a lot going on here with that. And again, options. There are a lot of options here. Every single turn, there is something to do for each player. So, bottom line, I really like the whole game. I like the theme. I like the deep strategy. If you like those kind of things, then you will definitely enjoy this game. This game is very tense, it's complex, and it is layered. It's, it's not, we're not playing Candyland here, so to speak, or tiddlywinks, as the old expression goes. But it is very rewarding. It is very interesting. It is a game that you, at the end, will kind of feel like, whew, whew, that was a struggle. Kind of, you know, again, like the tension of the countries dealing with this thing, and during the 60s and 70s and 80s during the Cold War. This is a game that I would give the final evaluation an 8 on it here. I rate it very highly. This is the kind of game that will stay in my collection. I will pull it out from time to time to play whenever the theme strikes me, and I'm like, gosh, you know what? I just want to go ahead and play a quick, easy, fun, and interesting game concerning nuclear deterrence and the Cold War. So, 8 is what I give this, and I would say give it a try if you like either complicated games or you like Cold War history. So, this is Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, wishing you victory and fun in all your games.